No, okay. And we can go to public participation of a general nature. If anyone would like to address the board, remember your comments can only be for 3 minutes. And we're gonna hold you to that, and hopefully we can limit some of the repeats.
Valerie Badalamenti. Badalamenti.
Right. Not even do the bad name.
Do you want to say your last name? I know.
Badalamenti. It's phonetic. I just want to say thank you all for being here. My name is Valerie Badalamenti. I have a freshman, a sophomore at Glenbard East. I have an incoming 8th grader who'll be a freshman this coming fall. I'm here to echo the sentiments of a few of the parents here tonight. I think it's a bit hasty, as I observed in your Q&A, which I appreciate your questions, John, because they're much the same of what I had kind of going through my mind is how does this all play out? Like, my kid is kind of confused about where am I going, what am I doing? And I know that's all gonna get worked out. I just feel like this fall is quick. So you're gonna vote on this in January 9th, possibly a yay vote. And then I have a domain meeting and a transition meeting for my freshman daughter, February 11th. So I need to know that if you're gonna vote yes on this, that special ed is gonna be cued in and they're gonna know exactly how my daughter's schedule is gonna work and how her needs are gonna be met. Because I have this strange feeling, I'm gonna hear this pardon our dust, we're working through, we're all in this together, we're all gonna, bear the stress together, whatever it is. And I just feel like this fall feels really, really hasty and a little too soon. I'd also like to echo that this does fall on our seniors, that I feel like in the high school realm endured the worst of COVID during their high school careers. They were remote freshman year, they were hybrid sophomore year. Now they're finally in classes and doing normal passing periods and normal theater events. And we had a wonderful production at Glenbard East of Mamma Mia, and it was very well attended all the nights that it brought and that it went. And I think all the kids were just so joyful to be there. They've had so little consistency that I don't know why we need to do it this fall, why we couldn't wait until next fall, especially regarding my daughter's special ed and all the other kids that are gonna have struggles, that are gonna have issues, because the special ed committee is gonna be formed, it's not formed, and then you're gonna vote, and then they're gonna scramble, and then I'm gonna have a meeting and hear all the things that they don't know yet. And I'm very concerned about that. She's had a tough time getting to where she is. We have wonderful teachers at Glen Westlake who have gotten her in getting her A's and B's, staying on task. One of her struggles is executive functioning. This to me looks like an executive functioning discombobble. Like, it's just, I don't know how she's gonna, but again, I digress. All the kids will adapt. They always will, they always do. It's just what they're really, really good at. And I'm not opposed to this change. I'm just opposed to this change now. So I'm asking you, committee people, to really think about this and vote no.
Jennifer Vansky.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Vansky, and I would like to talk about the book issue in the libraries. Pictures of kids having sex in books do not belong in school libraries. Pictures of naked kids in books do not belong in school libraries. It doesn't matter if the underlying theme of the book is homosexuality, heterosexuality, gardening, swimming. It doesn't matter. Is it pornographic or is it not? And that's what we're dealing with. To pretend like it's not that black and white is manipulative, and it's not honest. It really is that black and white. If there are pictures of kids having sex, it does not belong in a school building. During the last meeting, someone on the board said that it's not your guys' job to pick books and remove books, and I agree with that. It's not. That's at the building level. But what is your job is oversight. And when rules and policies and laws are being broken, that is your job. So I think it's silly that the principals and the librarians are now being forced to deal with this issue. I agree that they kind of created it by allowing the books in, but this is now kind of above them because it's a very serious policy and legal issue. And I do think it's your job to step in and end this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kelly Hummer.
Hello. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm here to speak about books also. My name is Kelly Hemmer. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the current president of PFLAG DuPage. Founded in 1973, PFLAG is dedicated to supporting, educating, and advocating for LGBTQ+ people and their families. And PFLAG DuPage has been a part of this community for 20 years. I am also a Glenbard parent. My son graduated from East, and my youngest child, who is non-binary, is currently a senior there. I am here to show support for the librarians who chose to include these titles in our school libraries and for the principals who approved them. I am here to show support for the LGBTQ youth in our community who need to see themselves and their struggles represented in the books in their school libraries. To illustrate the importance of having these books available to young people, I would like to share part of the author's note from the book, All Boys Aren't Blue. In writing this book, I wanted to be as authentic and truthful about my experience as possible. I wanted my story to be told in totality, the good, the bad, and the things I was always too afraid to talk about publicly. This meant going to places and discussing some subjects that are often kept away from teens for fear of them being too heavy. But the truth of the matter is, these things happened to me when I was a child, teenager, and young adult. So as heavy as these subjects may be, it is necessary that they are not only told, but also read by teens who may have to navigate many of these same experiences in their own lives. This book will touch on sexual assault, including molestation, loss of virginity, homophobia, racism, and anti-Blackness. These discussions at times may be a bit graphic, but nonetheless, they are the experiences that many reading this book will encounter or have already encountered. And I want those readers to be seen and heard in these pages. Please note that this book was crafted with care and love, but most importantly, to give a voice to so many from marginalized communities whose experiences have not yet been captured between the pages of a book. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anne McAnley.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. Earlier, I submitted a letter. I'm actually from the Deerfield community. I have a 20-year-old college student who's a junior who came out as gay at 12 and a half. I also have a younger child who's 17, high school senior, who came out at 15. So I'm here as a concerned parent, and I'm also here as a representative of PFLAG. So Kelly and I are obviously colleagues and friends, and when I wrote my letter, I wrote it on behalf of the PFLAG Northern Illinois Council. So I just wanted to give you just a second on PFLAG in terms of our mission. We celebrate diversity and envision a society that embraces everyone, including those of diverse sexual orientations and gender identities. Only with respect, dignity, equality for all will we reach our full potential as human beings, individually and collectively. We offer support to cope with an adverse society, education to enlighten an ill-informed public, and advocacy to end discrimination and to secure equal rights. So with just that, I just wanted to highlight a few things that I wrote in my letter. which was that public education means that we educate all, and by all, we mean a diverse student body. It's imperative that students feel represented, meaning they should see themselves represented in literature, both fiction and nonfiction. It's important for LGBTQ youth and other minorities to see themselves represented in the school library. Having these books helps to create empathy and understanding in students who are not in the minority groups portrayed. Another point, the LGBTQ inclusive curriculum bill stipulates all history classes taught in public schools in Illinois will include the contributions of LGBTQ individuals. A library is a resource for ideas, not for censorship. Once we start censoring, we limit our students. I'd ask you to ban hate, but not books. And then just as a last point, everyone is entitled to express their opinions about a book, but they don't have the right to limit another person's access to information. And I would refer everyone to the American Libraries Association Library Bill of Rights, and this was in my letter. But just in closing, I just wanted to say representation, education, inclusion, and kindness matters to all of our children. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration, and I would encourage you to reject any book banning requests. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan Hemmer.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dan Hemmer. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a 15-year resident of Lombard and a parent to 2 District 87 students, including 1 graduate. Having watched the recordings of the last 2 public meetings, I want to thank the board members here for your professionalism and for listening to all sides of the book selection issue. I realize this has not been comfortable. I believe the ideal way to educate anyone is to present them with information from all sides of the subject, the truth about the world they live in, but may not experience directly. Then give them the opportunity to discuss these subjects and discover their own perspectives. The young people who are being educated in our schools will quickly become young adults in our communities and the world. We need to guide them, but also trust them to make their own decisions. So let's listen to them. Here are just a few of the perspectives recently shared in a New York Times article titled "What Students Are Saying About the Growing Fight Over What Young People Can Read." From a student at Vanden High School, quote, "Honestly, the efforts to remove books that expose race, gender, and sexuality from schools and libraries are quite sad to me. I feel as if these important pages of knowledge are getting ripped out of our minds. This can be scary because without knowledge, we are destined to be blind." From a District 87 student, quote, "I understand the struggle between both schools wanting to properly educate their students on these topics and parents wanting to be the first to introduce them. But there has to be a middle ground. If schools can't share the historic side of racism and how far the LGBTQ+ community has come, students won't ever understand the turmoil these groups have faced. By banning these books, we are withholding truth in education. It's understandable that parents would want to explain these heavy topics themselves, but there is no reason to take part of another child's education away because we feel the need to shelter yours." From a student at Atrisco Heritage Academy, quote, "Books are to provide information that shape us into well-adjusted adults. Limiting information will turn us ignorant and intolerant, which leads to a more sad and angry world. Banning books and the schools agreeing to the book bans just show kids that the topics are bad and leads to more discrimination against the LGBTQ+ community and racism towards people of color. It's up to us as the new generation to break stigma and change the world to be a more happy and open place. Banning these topics is just taking us so many steps backward in time. It's this generation of young people around the world, around the country, that today continually inspire me and humble me when I see them stand up to demand what's right when the adults around them fail to act where justice exists. Please listen to their wisdom and their guidance. They only want to learn truth and have the opportunity to discover who they are in order to make a brighter future for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ron Whitfield.
phone's almost dead. I might have to do this all from memory. My name is Ron Whitfield. My wife and I are 51.5 year residents of the district. All 4 of our children went through K through 12 at Glenbard. And thanks to the education they got, they went on to fantastic careers. And our children's ages are from 53 to 45. It's Eric, Jonathan, Melissa, and Mary Beth. And Jonathan is gay. He came out to us on the night before his college graduation. Up until then, we didn't even know that he was questioning anything. Since that time, Jonathan has confided in us that he's envious of today's youth because of the rich variety of information that they have out there. He struggled for many, many years, unknown to us. This was a new topic for us. And he said that had he had a library in school that gave him information about other people like him so that he could know that he was not alone, would have been extremely valuable. Let's see, how much time do I have left? An issue here is what is pornography. The Supreme Court has dealt with this. The Supreme Court judge famously said about obscenity, I know it when I see it. What does that mean? It's subjective. It's personal. One man's junk is another man's treasure. Books like are under consideration here for renewal or banning, whatever you want to call it, are dealing with one child's treasure and another child's not treasure. And I submit that more lives will be saved by allowing kids who need this kind of information to have access to it. And I guarantee you there will be fewer children who will die because of inclusion of that information in the library. I would further bet that no one will die because of it. But I know my son was suicidal for part of his life. We didn't know it. Maybe if he'd had a book to bring home and talk with us about it when he was in junior high, certainly in high school, his struggles might have been a lot less. And I thank you for the chance to say this. And go Glenbard, great school. It's all right.
Thank you.
Linda Samuda. I don't see any children here. Linda Samuda. All right, so these are, as we've seen before, picture books graphically describing sex. It doesn't matter if it's homosexual sex, heterosexual sex. This is pornography. Okay? He shows someone giving a blowjob here. You're trying to give a blowjob here too. Pornography. The description of that is of erotic behavior, as in pictures or writing material to cause sexual excitement. Materials such as books or photograph that depicts erotic behavior and is intended to cause sexual excitement. The depiction of acts in a sensual manner as to arouse a quick, intense emotional reaction. This is in the books, okay? These are pictures. This is pornography. This isn't genderqueer. This is not appropriate. There's more books that describe sexual erotica and how to find sexual pleasure in other books here. It's not appropriate to have in our schools. This book is gay as telling children where to find sexual, pleasure in orgies and bathhouses and stuff. This is not appropriate to have in our schools. And I feel for the parents that have, children that identify as LGBTQ, that's, I empathize with them. But this is pornography, and many parents do not agree with this being in our school. You know it, you're looking down. You can't even look me in the eye, a lot of you. Because you know I won't. You know what pornography is. Please listen to us. Thank you.
Stephanie Clark.
Hi there. Can you hear me on that? Sorry. I'm gonna shift gears a little bit here and talk about school day planning. Dr. Larson, you said it yourself tonight that this is the first time you're changing the schedule in 70 years. And the engagement about this has been very controlled and is problematic. There's been no opportunity for the public to engage with the admin and get questions answered. Dr. Larson thinks that public comment is sufficient to hear our voices. It's not. Is that how you've treated your teachers as well? And have you provided an opportunity for any student to openly discuss this, or only the handpicked ones? It basically feels like you're ignoring the community. The only thing we can do is watch webinars and type our comments in the chat, and you may answer them. But there's a lot of questions you haven't answered, and we're not hearing about that in the updates. One that we keep asking about is data. Kristen said at first in public comment that you've shared no data to show this model will have intended outcomes. And some board members have asked for that. Have you forgotten about that? There's been absolutely no discussion. We're modeling ourselves after a school district that implemented it this year, so they probably don't have any data. Which begs the question, why are we rushing this? That I don't really feel that Mr. Kenwood got an answer for that. We're weighing that kids need time for interventions and resource time. Is that more important, or consistency and providing them with some consistency in a schedule before things change again when you go to college? When has this been weighed and discussed? I've seen no discussion about any of that. Sorry, trying to read my notes here. We keep talking about this free time for students, but they're not going to be required to be somewhere. How are you going to push students to get help? Many who need it will be happy to have a lot of free time to waste. You talk about preparing students for college with the longer classes. You do realize that college students do not have class every day from 7:30 to 3:30. And there's a reason why 14-year-old kids go to school all day long. They don't have the discipline or maturity to do what you're proposing with all this free time. Mrs. De La Rosa mentioned at one point that this hybrid schedule could lead way to more schedule changes. At the Glenbard West webinar, that question was asked, and the answer was that could possibly happen. So I guess I would like to know, do you plan to shift to a full block schedule after a year or so of trying this? And that should be shared as well with your implementation plan. You continue to have closed session discussions about negotiation matters with staff. If there's going to be a cost associated with this new schedule because teachers will want more pay, that should be made public before there's a vote. And my biggest concern about all of this is it going to be a colossal waste of time in the student's day, just messing around, and actually cost the taxpayer more money when we've seen no data to show this will make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Anne Bouchard.
Hello. Thank you. I'm here to follow up on the last meeting when we were hearing about the books that have been discussed a little bit tonight. I haven't read any of the books. I am not opposed to reading any of the books. I just haven't taken the time to read the books. But what I read about the books is that they are, many of them, several of them, autobiographical or semi-autobiographical. And one is a memoir. And as a previous speaker talked about, they reference the person's own experience growing up. Many of them experienced bullying, and that was some of the focus for writing the books. The books have won awards and have many notable and positive reviews. Others have said, and I agree, that we should have books for everyone in the library. And no one is forcing anyone to read these books. If you don't want to read it, don't read it. I feel that high school kids already have access, so much more access than we ever had to so much information. Anything you want, it's accessible to you 24/7, not just a book. But as a parent, I try to be available to my kids, who are much older now, about anything they would like to discuss. And, but in my own experience with teenagers and as a teenager, former teenager, not all of these issues are easily discussed with your parents. And not all, you maybe get information from friends, that's not necessarily reliable. You may get information from books, that also may not be reliable. But it gives you a source for some of your questions and a place to get answers. And again, if my long ago experience is a guide, curious teens probably have already started looking for answers. And I think that having books that could help anyone find out more about yourself and to avoid some of the pitfalls and the sad experiences that many of these authors had would be great. Thank you.
Caroline Andres.
Hi, everybody. Caroline Andrews. I forgot to tell you that I had two kids graduate from South. One just graduated, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. We're super proud of her, and we know that, Glenbard South was a big part of that. In fact, one of her teachers was her history teacher, Mr. Ratoon, was the one who really got her going, and she wants to be an archaeologist. And I think it's really because of Kachin and Ratoon. So I want to say thanks. My other child, Ren, is trans and non-binary and also graduated from South and is studying critical theory and social justice and theater, and also had a great experience in South, was fully prepared for college. And the first one is also LGBT. So both my students, and they both ran and were presidents of PRISM at South. I forgot to tell Dr. Shannon that one before. Okay, reading is something that you can enjoy for a lifetime. I'm talking about the book concerns, of course. Providing books that interest students and represent students encourages that lifelong pastime. The school library plays a unique role in promoting intellectual freedom. It serves as a point of voluntary access to information and ideas as a learning laboratory for students as they acquire critical thinking and problem-solving skills needed in a pluralistic society. These books are not part of the curriculum. No one's asking your students to read these books. If you don't want your student to read them, they shouldn't check them out. Don't have them check them out. The Board of Education has made it clear that there's a procedure to take a book from the shelf, which is basically a committee forming, reading the book and seeing if it meets the criteria for removal. But many of these parents have said they shouldn't have to read the book to have it removed. This group also say that they want students to have safe material, touting that these books are sexually explicit. But that argument stems from another we've heard by calling these books pornographic, equating LGBTQ plus existence with people who exhibit sexual predatory behavior. That is a very different issue, and one that the district has many rules and procedures of consequence for those that exhibit that kind of behavior. Some also equate LGBTQ as mentally unsound. American Academy of Pediatrics, Lurie's Children's Hospital, Blue Cross Blue Shield have long ago and for years identify LGBTQ as a natural variation in humanity and does not qualify as a mental disorder. In addition, these parents don't take issue with other books that are sexually explicit. For example, Looking for Alaska by John Green, or Speak by Lori Halse Anderson, which is about sexual assault. Thank you very much for considering to keep these books on the shelves.
Marty Boyd.
Good evening, Marty Boyd. I wanted to come and talk a little bit about the school day changes that are being discussed. You know, when we started high school a few years ago, we were really looking forward to traditional schooling. We came out of District 41, a lot of experimenting that went on there. I could give you like a long list of all the different things that were tried for deeper learning, for specialization, lots of cool terms that may be well regarded in education speak, but the end result on the impact to kids' learning is questionable. And it's questionable because you can look at the proficiency rankings, just like I've talked about at the school board meetings here, of the impact that it had. So the rising seniors next year, so far in their school time here at West, they have had 5 months of normal school. Freshman year, COVID, sophomore year, hybrid, somebody else I think went through that schedule. So put that in perspective, 5 months of normal schooling. Now, I don't really want to come and trash freshman year's learning, but let's just say it was less than normal. Let's say sophomore year, less than normal. 5 months into this year, good. We have a few more months to go. We'll see what happens. And then senior year, you're going to switch it up. That's kind of sounds like where this is headed. Less instructional time. Oh, good. Not good for students. Who is this good for? I just don't see it. Dr. Larson, we are 8 months away from August for all practical purposes. We're headed into holidays, right? 8 months away from August when you want to roll out the schedule change. And there's so many unanswered questions. I mean, John Kenwood was bringing up like a lot of things that parents are talking about. How does this actually work? And nobody's been able to explain that. Does academics have anything to do with the reasons why you're making changes outside of skill sets? We know about skill sets from D41 too. Okay, so why can't we have some more honest discussions with the community and the parents and stop pretending that parents don't exist? This is a runaway train. Please stop it.
Thank you.
Reverend Seth Carey.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time. James, good to see you. Thank you all for all that you do for our village here and our children. My name is Reverend Seth Carey. I'm the senior pastor of the First Congregational Church of Glen Ellen. So I can see that there are some concerns among some of our local parents about so-called pornographic materials in our school libraries. Now, it appears to me that they're specifically concerned about books that include positive narratives about LGBTQ plus folks in their community. And I know it's been said that this is not specific to queer gender issues, but it really does kind of seem that way. Now, I think this is a gross mischaracterization of human sexuality and its diversity. I represent a local historic faith community that is an open and affirming congregation. That means that we celebrate love in all of its forms. We also offer comprehensive human sexuality education for junior high and senior high students that focuses on matters of respect, dignity, diversity, safety, and consent. We want to equip our young people to make good decisions as they navigate the increasingly complex world of relationships. I don't expect to change anyone's minds here this evening, but I think it's important that ordained leaders of the religious community speak on behalf of folks when they are being demonized for being different, or when narratives that celebrate their stories are condemned. I could speak for much longer about my theologically grounded understanding of love, but I'd like to say a word about libraries instead. Libraries are designed to curate knowledge and culture in all of its forms. They are not ideological entities, nor political blocs, nor religious communities. Their role primarily is to provide access to materials across the ideological spectrum. For instance, obviously I am not a Muslim, but I believe that every library ought to have a copy of the Quran. The same goes for the Bible, despite its many depictions of rape, sexual assault, incest, and dismemberment. These texts, beyond being religious, are historically and culturally significant. And an important part, I believe, of any well-rounded education. Libraries, especially school libraries, have a responsibility to provide access to a broad range of material. Good pedagogy does not refuse to engage with certain topics, nor does it pretend that certain people or cultures or ideas don't exist. Our gay, lesbian, trans, and queer students in this community do exist, and my congregation of over 1,000 people stands with them. Some folks may question my credentials or how I can call myself a Christian, but as a beloved old hymn reminds us,
Thank you.
oh, there we go. You know we are Christians by our love. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robert Dobos.
I've been in that position getting stopped before the time was done. Reverend Shannon, I wanted to address, Bob Dovis, I taught forever in District 87. I wanted to address your question about are the teachers on board? As a teacher, generally, they don't like change at all. They don't like to have to redo their lesson plans an entire year's worth. They're like electricity. They like the path of least resistance. So what's going to end up happening with this new schedule is, guess what Wednesday and Thursday are going to be? Test day. Yep, we're going to have a half an hour review. Then you're going to have a whole hour of testing, because 43 minutes in a lot of classes is not enough time to test. Well, I didn't think of that. Well, yeah, well, that's the way it's going to be. Or the other thing is you're going to take 2 days to test. I mean, you know, things have consequences as we go through. And deep learning, look, time schedules don't do deep learning. So take that whole concept and throw it out the window. Dr. Larson uses the John Dewey quote, what is best and wise, what the best and wisest parent wants for his or her child, that must the community want for all of its children. Well, I consider myself to be the best and wisest parent for my children. And I think it's just flat wrong for them to have access to pornographic material in libraries. As far as the gay community is very strong, I have a lot of gay and trans friends. I think that this could be taken care of through maybe like the prison clubs or the public libraries. I don't know. It's a difficult situation. I'm glad I don't have to make the decision. I was at my doctor the other day. He's the one that took the cancer out of me. I thank him every single time I can, but he's retiring. But he spoke about how his Polish mother used to read the Bible to him. And he said that she said to him, when what used to be good is now seen as evil, and what used to be evil is seen as good, then you'll know the end times are beginning. And then there was a gentleman that was homeless. He sent this to me. And this is from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7, verses 15 through 20. Watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. By their fruit you will recognize them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes, or figs from thistles? Likewise, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Every tree that does
you.
not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus, by their fruit, you will recognize them. Thank you.
Monica Morrow.
Hello again. I just like to say that I'm Reverend Monica Morrow. I may not look like one, but I am. And I am a reverend of a non-denominational church. It means that we represent also people who are of different backgrounds, different beliefs, different orientations, different identities. We all welcome them. We just don't enable their weakness. First of all, on the New Day model, I just like to say that even a brilliant idea introduced prematurely will not bear any fruits. So timing is everything, and I'd like to ask you to reconsider what the parents said here today. I think that maybe waiting another year might be a good idea. It's my 2 cents. As far as the books, I love that everybody's so very passionately sharing on the books. I'm not sure if anybody read them. I read 2 of them. Cover to cover. Okay, and I can tell that there's pornography. Whether it is homosexual or heterosexual, it doesn't matter. There's pornography, and it is prohibited by law, by the state law. We are not talking about some policies or what somebody feels like or what somebody thinks. And no, we are talking about violation of a state law. It's a criminal offense. And if anybody has any input on heterosexual pornography in the school libraries, I think that they have the same option to fill out the form to address it with the board. I think that it's absolutely legit. I think that everybody should do that, whoever finds out about books like that. And I just like to make a correction. I work with people who suffer from social emotional behavioral disorders, and sexual deviations are one of them. Okay, so it's not physical condition, it's not mental condition. These people, they are brilliant. And I have many friends who are from that community, and I love them dearly, but it doesn't mean that I will enable their illness and support them in wrongdoing. Okay, that's 2 different things. So we're talking pornography, and then promoting unhealthy ideas. Some ideas may be normal, but not everything that's normal is also safe and healthy. In some cultures, cannibals, they think it's normal to eat other humans. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think it's safe. Nazi Germany, they thought that putting Jews in gas chambers was okay. It was normal. It was not. Okay. There are many other things that are maybe normal or common. I think that the best word is common. What is common is not always healthy. I think that for our children to learn something, they have to be A, safe, B, healthy. And we need to make sure that even the educators know the difference between what is healthy and what is not. If I came to your house and started sharing my bedroom stories from last night, homosexual or heterosexual, you wouldn't like it.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for please respecting the law.
Robin Fogarty.
I appreciate your time, and I sat here for the duration of this, these meetings, and I have to say, first of all, I want to thank you, John, for raising some very good questions about the change in schedule. I had I had 3 kids that went to Glenbard North for 3 years, and my daughter had to survive during this COVID stuff. And there were a lot of kids that suffered with a lot of anxiety. I do agree that that agenda should be moved off to wait and see how well it goes with other schools before you do another change. Because my daughter did suffer with a lot of anxiety, and she was high, she's in a lot of honors classes. So that was one thing. The other thing is I'm here to represent a lot of the other parents that are concerned about what is being in the libraries and what isn't. And as I watched every parent or concerned community member share, I got to see the different body language that was given. And I'm gonna call out you, Kermit, because there were several people that as soon as you didn't agree with what they had to say, you immediately turned your head and you were disrespectful, you rolled your eyes. Look back, if this is being videoed, look back at this. Because you are getting paid by taxpayers. Volunteered, excuse me, thank you. I apologize. But the fact is, I sat there and watched how rude you were to the people speaking. Linda had visuals. You couldn't even look at them. It is pornography, whether it's hetero or homosexual pornography, it's pornography. Okay? And it was really rude. I sat there and I watched each time someone came up. There is no hate here. None of these parents are displaying hate. They're displaying concern. These are kids that are underage. Would you want your kid to come to a table or bring their partner, whether it's a guy or a girl, and perform oral sex in front of you? Would you want that, any of you? Well, that's what's in these books. And that's why there's a lot of concerned parents. There's a lot of mental illness out there. And my heart goes out to anybody that feels like they're being bullied. I don't care. I'm totally against racism. My kids had colors from all different, hey, red and yellow, black and white. Jesus loves them all. And I welcomed every single color in my family. And I thought that was great. The same thing with some of the confusion out there with gender identity. But the fact is they don't belong in a minor school library. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Donna, do we have anyone else? Okay, I think we're at.
We got my form from before, so, cause I checked out both of them. Kristen Seaman and, yeah, wow. This is, a packed evening and lots of comments and lots of different perspectives. And, I think it's important that we do hear and we respect everybody's perspectives with all of these things that are going on, because, everybody here is a stakeholder. We're taxpayers, we're parents, there's staff, there are volunteers that are serving on this, and this is a really good job. You all have an incredibly challenging job, but it's a responsibility too, right? And it's something I think that needs to be taken very seriously. When it comes to the changes that are being recommended for next year about the schedule, y'all need more time and you do need information. And there are site visits that have been done, and it's really important that you get feedback in regards to how this has benefited the kids. Our kids are really struggling. Scores are low. We need to figure out where that learning loss is and how to gain ground on that. That is so necessary. The other thing is the books that are in the school. I think we need to look at, these are policy violations. This is a school board issue and committee issue. When you're looking at the images, graphic images that are being put in front of minors, that is a violation. So if this is something that you are going to decide to move forward with and allow these books here, you're going to need to look at serious revision of your school board policies. That's something serious. This is not just perception of what somebody's looking at and says, well, that could be offensive. I think anybody that would look at those pictures would say, yeah, I don't feel comfortable with a minor looking at those images. I think the stories behind each of these authors are valid stories, and they probably are. There probably is information there that members of the LGBTQ community feel like they can see themselves in. There's some relatability from what I'm hearing. I'm not talking about that. And I'm not demonizing that, and I'm not judging or being critical of that. I am being critical of the obscenity and the graphic images that do qualify as pornographic. That I would not be comfortable. I can have discussions with my kids about sex, absolutely. But am I comfortable sitting there and having a conversation with those graphics between us? I don't know that many parents would feel comfortable with that. Or even knowing, I don't know how many parents know that this is in the school.
Thank you. Okay, I think I see no one else who wants to come and give us participation. I think we'll close public participation and, if we have a motion to adjourn, go to closed session, motion?
Read the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we have to read the whole.
The board will convene to the closed session to discuss the collective negotiating matters